Hello, let's do our yoga. Hello, let's get ready to do our yoga. First, I want to take a moment to show you some of the props that I like to have handy. I always want to have a canvas strap and a couple different sizes of yoga blocks. Ideally, a couple different sizes of pillows and a smaller bolster and a larger bolster if possible. All of these supports are used to allow maximum relaxation in a restorative practice, and the blocks can also be used to essentially bring the floor a little bit closer to you. We're going to start in Savasana, corpse pose, setting our intentions for the practice. Focus on what you want to bring into your life and what you're needing to let go of. How do you see that shift happening? How can you create the space to allow for that change? Relax into Savasana while setting your intentions. Continue to remain in corpse pose while intentionally allowing yourself to let go of all of your worries, all of your concerns. Let go of your stress from the day, from the week, the month, the entire year. Give yourself permission to be stress-free. Then slowly rotate your head and your neck to the right, looking out over your right shoulder. Take a deep breath. And then back to neutral. Then to the left side for another deep breath. And then back to neutral. Stretching out long. Reach your hands overhead and point your toes. Rotate your ankles. And then hug in your right knee. You can engage your foot, flex your heel, rotate the ankle, point your toes. Continue hugging that knee. Pay close attention to the micro movements and the compression in your right hip socket. And then you can reach for your strap, get the canvas to go across the ball of your right foot, straightening out that leg. You can keep a slight bend in the knee if you wish. Maybe pull that leg just a little bit closer to your chest. And then we're going to swing the leg out to the right side while continuing to hold the foot with the strap for the half straddle. Hold there for a couple of deep breaths. And then release and set your strap aside while lowering your right leg back down to the mat. Hands overhead again, stretching out long, pointing the toes, rotating your ankles, before then hugging in your left knee. Again, you can engage the foot and ankle, flexing your toes, pointing your toes, rotating your ankle. Continue hugging that left knee tightly. Again, pay close attention to the micro movements, focusing on the compression in your left hip socket. And then pick up your strap again, placing the canvas across the ball of your left foot. Straighten out that leg, maybe keep a slight bend in the knee, and hold that leg there. And again, you might want to pull your leg just a little bit closer to your chest. And then swing the left leg out to your left side with your strap, your left foot still in the strap for the half straddle on the other side. This is a very big stretch. We'll hold for several breaths. And then set your strap aside while lowering that left leg back down to the mat. Both legs are out straight, stretching out long, arms overhead. And then hug in both knees tightly. Continue holding your right knee while lowering the left leg back down to the mat. Then we're going to place the right knee onto the floor across the body on your left side, onto the floor or bolster or prop for the supine twist to the left. Arms are in a T, keeping your gaze out over your right fingertips. We're going to stay in the supine twist with our drishti over the right fingertips, and there's an option here to use your left hand to apply a light pressure to your right knee if you wish. Enjoy this stretch, focusing on the release in the small of your back. And then slowly turn your head to look the opposite direction over your left shoulder for 2 full breaths. Slowly turning the head and neck back to look over the right shoulder, relaxing your gaze over your right fingertips again. And then head and neck back to neutral. Lower the right leg back down to the floor. Hug in both of your knees together, your head and your neck towards the knees, rocking and rolling. And then lower your right leg back down to the mat while continuing to hug your left knee. Hold it there for several breaths. We're going to move that left knee across the body to place it on the floor or a bolster on your right side for the supine twist. For the other side, arms are in a T again. Enjoy this soothing release while keeping your gaze out over your left fingertips. With your right hand, you can apply that light pressure to the left knee at any point if you wish. Just relax into this twist. Then slowly turn your head to the right, looking out over the right fingertips. And then back towards the left, keeping your drishti over your left fingertips again. And then back to neutral. Lower the left leg back down to the mat when coming out of this twist and stretch your arms out long overhead. And hug in both of your knees once again, stretching your neck, rotating both ankles, gauging the feet, flexing your heels, pointing your toes. And now we're going to get into the reclined butterfly. You may want to utilize props under your knees or thighs. Arms are down by your sides, hands facing up, surrendering to your practice. Then glide your arms out to your sides, across the floor, arching them overhead in a half moon to the steeple grip. And then slowly glide your arms out wide again down to your sides like butterfly wings. Hands or palms are facing up. And then slowly stretching those arms out to your sides again and then bringing them back up overhead, touching the fingertips to each other in steeple grip or prayer hands. With your fingers and thumbs touching, we're going to remain in the reclined butterfly pose. But you may want to remove any props that you're using here. We're going to get into the reclined tree pose. First, straighten out your left leg while placing the sole of your right foot against the inseam of your left thigh as high as you can. Hands still overhead in prayer hands, steeple grip, or yogi's choice. We're simply going to switch sides by first straightening out the right leg and then placing the sole of your left foot high to the inseam of your right thigh. Arms can still be in prayer hands overhead, branching out, post arms, steeple grip, however you're most comfortable. Then reach for your strap and get the canvas to go across the balls of both of your feet for legs up the wall. Knees can be straightened or bent slightly. You can pedal your knees out, you can rock, you can wiggle, anything you wish. Walk it out. You're going to continue to keep your left foot in the strap, keeping the canvas on the ball of that foot while removing the right foot and placing your right ankle across your left thigh for reclined pigeon. Hold that there. You can bend your left knee slightly as an option, or you can keep it straightened, or some of each, straightening and bending. And then we're going to switch out the feet, getting your right foot back into the strap, removing the left foot, placing the left ankle across your right thigh for the reclining pigeon on the other side. Again, you've got the option to bend the knee slightly, straighten it, or some of each. Then we're going to lay flat, set the strap aside. We're going to do 3 honey bumblebee breaths with your fingers on your closed eyes, thumbs on your ear cartilage. Press your thumbs down on the tragus, closing off the airway to your ears. Breathing in through your nose and out through your nose. We're going to hum low-pitched 3 times on the exhale. After that, slowly turn yourself over, slowly turning to your left or to your right, carefully flipping yourself all the way over to lay prone on your front side. You can rest your head on your hands, laying lightly on top of each other for several breaths as we prepare for another twist. Come up onto your elbows and forearms into the Sphinx. And then hike up your right knee out to your right side with your right arm out in front of you. With your left arm, you can thread the needle, making any adjustments for this pose that you need to as you get into your supine twist once again. You might want to use a bolster or a prop to support your knee. You can straighten out both of your arms, trying to lay your shoulders flat on the ground, arms in a T. At any point, you can use your left hand to apply that slight pressure to your right knee again, keeping your gaze out over your right shoulder, looking towards your right fingertips. Feel the difference from the last supine twist, having gotten into the pose from an entirely different series of prompts and directives. Also, take note of any similarities along with those differences. When you're ready to come out of the twist, you can simply rest your head onto your hands again, laying them on top of one another, once again for several breaths. And then lifting your feet into the air, bend your knees and windshield wiper your feet and calves back and forth. Then slow that down before you lower your feet back down to the mat. And then back up onto your forearms and elbows and hands for the Sphinx pose again. This time, hike your left knee out to your left side. And with your left arm out in front of you, thread your right arm through the needle, shifting into the supine twist again. Same as the other side. You can adjust yourself so that both shoulders and arms are flat on the ground in a T again. Have that option to apply the light pressure with your right hand on your left knee, keeping your drishti out over your left shoulder. Relax into this twist, again noticing any similarities and differences from the first supine twist and even from the other side. And when you are done, you can unwind and resting your head on your hands again. This time in an exaggerated motion, really windshield wiper those feet and knees back and forth, loosening out the hips. And then slowing that down, lower your feet back down to the mat. And then send your hips back towards your feet, getting into a wide knee child's pose. You can use a block or a bolster or pillow to rest your head or your torso on. You're going to hold this pose, really relaxing the torso. Ragdoll that upper portion of your body. Allow gravity to do the work for you. Lean into it. When you're done, remove the prop if you have one, coming up into a tabletop shape, and then lowering yourself back down into the Sphinx, on your elbows and forearms again, this time spreading your hands and your fingers out as wide as you can, holding that Sphinx pose tall. Then turn your right forearm to be parallel with the top of your mat. Reach back with your left hand for your left foot. Hold this half bow pose for several breaths. And then you can take a minute here to attempt the full bow if it's in your practice, getting each of your feet into each of your hands. This can be very tricky, even if you're good at it. You might want to use the strap to help assist with getting both of your feet into both of your hands. If you have someone nearby, you can ask for an assist. However it is that works for you to get your hands, get each foot into each hand. If it's too much, just do any modification that you're comfortable with, knowing that your level of flexibility varies from day to day. If you're in that full bow, you can use your breath and diaphragm to rock yourself lightly, or you can try to remain still, or some of each, and then let go of your feet, resting your head on your hands again with one top stacked on top of the other, and windshield wipering those feet again, really loosening out the hips. Then slow it down and lower your feet back down to the mat. Same thing on the other side. Come back into the Sphinx, stretching your hands and your fingers out as wide as you can, sitting up tall, and then turning your left forearm to be parallel with the top of your mat, reaching back with your right hand to hold your right foot. Engage in the half bow for several breaths. And then just like on the other side, you can attempt that full bow if it's in your practice, using your strap, having someone spot you. However it is that you need to support yourself into this challenge of full bow, or any modification of it that works for you. If you're in that full bow, again, you can use your breath and diaphragm to rock slightly back and forth, or you can try to remain still, or some of each. And then when letting go of your feet, lowering them back down to the mat, send your hips back to sit on your feet into child's pose, this time in a regular child's pose with your knees touching. And while sitting on your feet, you can rest your head on a block. We're going to be here for a prolonged period. Really lean into it. Relax into it. Then you can walk or slide your hands to the right edge of the mat, reaching for the upper right corner. Feel that stretch across your lower left ribs. Then hands and fingers back to neutral, sliding or walking your hands and fingers to the left side of the mat, reaching towards the upper left corner, focusing on the extension in your lower right ribs. Holding that for several breaths, for then walking or gliding your hands back to neutral. Ragdolling that torso. Then slowly push your torso up, pressing your hands on the mat. Coming up into a hero's pose. We'll pause here. You may want a prop under your booty. You can place your hands on your thighs. Remaining still, take notice of the challenges of this seemingly easy pose. And then you can get your hands into prayer hands over heart, slowly rising your prayer hands overhead, and then lowering them back down, placing your hands back onto your thighs. Then we're going to come up onto our knees in a widened stance. Reach your arms out behind yourself. You might want to get your hands into a bind, interlacing your fingers. Exploring the limits of your flexibility. Pushing your arms up slightly behind you. Leaning back. You might want to bend forward, placing your forehead onto the mat, and then lowering your arms towards the floor overhead before then coming back up carefully, and then unclasp your fingers. We're going to move into a camel pose. I like to use a bolster on the backs of my ankles, leaning back slightly, arching the torso. Reach for that bolster if you're using one, and explore this chest opener, or any modification of this is another real challenging pose. And then as you come out of this shape, you can sit back onto your feet into the hero's pose once again, focusing on your breath. And when you're ready, swing your legs around out in front of yourself for staff pose. You can either use the strap across the balls of your feet, or you can stack some pillows and props on top of your legs, piling up your props so that you can ragdoll the upper portion of your body over your legs, resting your torso on the props. And then if you can hold your feet, we're going to remain here for a prolonged period. Using the strap on the balls of your feet without the props gives you the same type of effect. Really lean into this. You can envision tilting your hips towards your feet, towards your toes, allowing gravity to do the work for you. Focus on easing your weight forward, trusting that gravitational pull to completely support you. When we're done, we'll remove the props, setting them aside. Get your left leg stretched out long. Bring the right foot up high to the inseam of your left thigh. Reaching for your left toes in a side bend. Breathe into this stretch. Focus on relaxing into it, trusting the gravity to do its work. Then come back to neutral, getting into a wide straddle stretch. Lean forward for a couple of deep, intentional breaths, maybe using the blocks. Slowly transitioning, switch it out to the other side, placing your left foot to the inner right thigh, reaching for your right toes in a side bend. Left hand is over the right hand and foot. Focusing on your breath and again trusting gravity to work its magic, supporting you and keeping you safe. And then come back up to neutral, stretching both legs out to the wide straddle again, leaning forward, reaching out in front of yourself, maybe resting your forearms and forehead on some blocks. Focus on really leaning into this. If you have your forehead on a block, allow the weight of your head to be fully supported by the prop. Relax into a handful of intentional breaths. Then come into a seated butterfly, holding the soles of your feet together with both hands, allowing your allowing your knees to fall towards the floor, sitting up tall, and then mindfully bending your head and neck towards your feet. And then gently rise your head and neck slowly back up to neutral, imagining a string above your head, pulling it straight up in a perfect posture. And then slowly twist your head from side to side, first to the right, and then neutral, then to the left, and back to neutral. And now you can stretch your neck down, rolling it out in small movements at first. You can twist your head and neck back and forth like you're indicating a no. You might want to stretch your neck diagonally, bending the head and neck from side to side. Might want to move your head up and down as if acknowledging a yes. And if it's in your practice, you can do a full circle rotation in one direction and then a full circle rotation in the other direction, before then bringing your head back to neutral, before shifting into the easy pose. Reaching down with your left hand, touch your left fingertips to the mat. Drop your right ear to your right shoulder. You have an option to use a light pressure with your right fingertips on the top of your head. And if you want, you can move your head and neck slightly back and forth to gently massage out your neck muscles. And then release the head and neck back to neutral. Reaching then with your right fingers towards the ground. Drop your left ear to your left shoulder. And again, with that slight pressure with your left fingertips. If you wish, you can move the head and neck slightly back and forth for the massaging. And then back to neutral. Again, turn your head slowly from side to side, first to the right, then back to neutral, to the left, and then back to neutral. And now we're going to bring ourselves into that wide straddle again. And again, you might want to use the blocks in front of you to rest your forearms or forehead on. We're going to remain in this stretch for an extended period. Leaning forward. Focus on your breath. Filling up your lungs with clean air. And then emptying your lungs. Refilling them again. Appreciating the oxygen coming into your system. Reaching every cell in your body as you relax into this stretch. And then you can pick up a block into each of your hands. Reaching over the left foot, you can place each of those blocks on either side of the foot to rest your hands on, or you can reach for your toes. Allow gravity to assist in your efforts, making this side stretch feel as effortless as possible. And then pick up the blocks and place them out in front of you, leaning forward for a moment before picking them up again to place on either side of your right foot. And again, you can rest your hands on the blocks or you can reach for your toes, or some of each as you breathe deeply and allow gravity to work its magic. Letting go of all of your stress and then coming back to neutral. Set your blocks aside. Our next pose will be bending our right knee over the left leg, extended out straight, twisting to the right, gazing to the back of the room. Your right hand or fist is on the floor behind you, your arm supporting the weight of your torso. Use your left elbow to leverage on the right knee, resting your gaze as far back as you can. Then slowly turn your gaze to the front of the room, and then slowly returning your gaze to the back of the room, all while continuing to leverage the left elbow on the right knee. And then And as you come out of this twist, you can simply switch sides, bending the left knee over the right leg extending out straight. Left hand or fist is on the floor behind you, gazing over your left shoulder towards the back of the room and leveraging with your right elbow against the left knee. And then slowly turn your head and gaze to be looking out over the right shoulder towards the front of the room. Slowly returning your drishti to the back of the room, looking over your left shoulder again. Continuing to leverage that right elbow on the left knee. And then back to neutral. And as we come out of this, we'll hold the soles of both of our feet together, again getting into the butterfly pose, pressing the knees towards the floor, sitting up tall, carefully and slowly bending the head and neck towards the feet. And then again, imagining that string being pulled from above the top of your head, coming all the way up in perfect posture, and then gently turning your head to the right, slowly back to neutral, carefully to the left, and then again back to neutral. And now we're going to get our legs into cow face and then Lord of the Fish. First, bend the right knee over the left knee that's also bent, stacking them on top of each other for cow face. Hold each of your feet in each of your hands, sitting up tall. Might want to use your thumbs to press into the arches of your feet to give yourself a nice gentle foot massage. Then turn all the way to the right. Right arm is behind you. Left elbow leverages against that right knee, looking towards the back of the room. Really appreciate the power of this twist. Then slowly turn your head to the opposite side, carefully looking out over your left shoulder, and then slowly turning your head and your gaze to be looking out over your right shoulder again. And then back to neutral. Now you can straighten both legs out in front of yourself for staff pose, stretching your arms out wide to the sides, and arching them in a half moon, reaching up towards the sky. You can interlace your fingers, binding your hands, and then turning them outward, reaching up as tall as you can. And then we're going to bend forward, reaching for the toes. Notice any tightness in your back. Allow that to loosen. And then come back up to neutral and prepare to switch legs for cow face on the other side. Left knee is stacked on top of your right bent knee. Sitting up tall and holding your feet with each of your hands. Again, you can massage your thumbs into the arches of each foot for a moment. twisting to the left. Your right elbow is leveraging against your left knee. Your left hand is on the floor behind you. Looking out over your left shoulder towards the back of the room. Slowly turning your gaze towards the front of the room, looking out over your right shoulder. And then slowly returning the gaze to be looking out over your left shoulder once again. And then head back to neutral. As you come out of this twist, you can return to staff pose, reaching your arms out wide to the sides, again, legs out in front of yourself, making a half moon arch, touching the hands overhead for steeple grip, reaching tall, and then leaning forward to hold your toes. Notice if you have any more tension in your back than you did just a minute ago in the same stretch. And then as you come back up to neutral, transition into easy pose. Reaching your arms out wide to the sides and then up for the half moon arch, touching your hands together for prayer hands before getting into cactus arms, preparing for eagle arms. First with your right elbow over the left elbow, hands together, pushing your elbows slightly up, bending the head and neck down slightly. Have an option to slowly look up as high as possible, leaning your head slightly back while pushing your eagle arms towards the sky. Or you can just remain in this simple stretch, looking down slightly and pushing your elbows and arms up slightly and just really appreciating the release across your neck and upper back and shoulder blades. Either way, as you unpretzel your arms, reach out wide, then touch the hands down to the ground before lifting them back up, arching them overhead for one more half moon, touching the hands together again overhead, and then back to cactus, and again eagle arms with the left elbow over the right elbow, pushing the elbows up slightly, bending the head and neck down slightly, holding there, or again, there's that option to slowly look up as high as possible, gently leaning your head slightly back while you push your elbows and arms up. If you're doing that, your arms will naturally unpretzel. Or if you're just doing the simple stretch, you can unpretzel your arms, reaching out wide to the sides before then touching the ground. And then reaching back out wide and up, bringing your hands together overhead in another half moon arch to steeple grip, sitting tall. And then doing a simple twist to each side while lowering your arms down. You can reach your right hand behind you, your left hand on the right knee, and then lift your right arm straight up to cross over the left. reaching for that left knee with your right hand, and then your left hand on the floor behind you, before then raising the left arm straight up high, reaching over your right arm to your right knee, before then coming back to neutral, and then hugging your knees lightly in this basket shape. Here you have an opportunity to get into the boat pose. I like to first hold my hands under my thighs, get into a very intense boat pose before releasing, and then a more traditional boat pose, just holding my arms parallel to the ground. Legs are up, body's in the shape of a V. And you can get a little bit more of a workout for your core strength if you want to scissor your legs for a minute with your toes pointed, raising and lowering your feet and legs up and down as you scissor them. You can arch your heels, point your toes, and then eventually laying back down onto your mat, stretching out long, and then plant both feet on the floor, knees bent. You might want to hold a block or pillow in between your knees, possibly another on each side of yourself, to allow your knees to simply just fall to your right. Arms are in a T, focusing your gaze out over your left fingertips. Just enjoy the simplicity of this twist. Slowly, you can rotate your head and neck to be looking out the opposite direction over your right fingertips. And then slowly, you can return your head and neck to be looking out over your left fingertips again. And then allow your head and neck to go back to neutral. Bring knees to neutral, before then allowing your knees to simply fall to the left, still with the arms in a T, gazing out over your right fingertips. Then you can slowly turn your head and neck to look out over your left shoulder, setting your gaze over your left fingertips. Slowly turning your head and neck to be looking back out over your right fingertips. And then back to neutral. Knees back to neutral. Remove any props and hug in both knees, bending your head and neck, engaging the feet, head and neck towards your knees. You can flex your toes, flex your heels, point your toes, rotate your ankles. Before then, planting both feet firmly on the mat again, kicking up your right leg high, crossing that right knee over the left knee, And then simply allow your legs to fall to your right. Your arms are in a T, gaze is out over your left fingertips. This is the grand finale, my favorite twist of them all. Then as you bring your knees back up to neutral, you can uncross your knees and hug knees to chest, rocking and rolling, before firmly planting both feet back onto the mat for the other side, kicking your left leg up high to cross it over your right knee, and then allowing those legs to fall to the left with your arms in the T and your gaze out over your right fingertips. Enjoy this final twist. Releasing your legs, your knees back up to neutral. Hug in both knees. One more time, rocking and rolling. And then if you would like to, you have an option here for the happy baby. Getting each of your feet into each of your hands. You could rock the baby, maybe alternating, straightening, and slightly bending each knee. It's a really good stretch. Every baby knows how to do the happy baby. And then we forget. And then as you come out of that, you can simply lay flat and then reach for a block for supported bridge, planting both feet firmly on the mat, lifting up your hips, slide a block under the small of your back on its lowest level, relaxing into your supported bridge. And while still on the block, you can reach for your strap, or you can do legs up the wall without the strap. You can use an actual wall if you have one handy. If you're using your strap, get the canvas to go across the balls of both feet. You can walk it out. You can pedal your knees, slightly bending and straightening. When you're done, you can set the strap to the side, remove the block. And if it's in your practice, there's an opportunity here for a shoulder stand and the plow. You can take a minute or two to do these, or yogi's choice, any stretching that you would like to do to feel complete in your workout, or you can feel free to get into the Savasana early and we'll meet you there. Should you be getting into a shoulder stand, you might want to point your toes tall, flexing your heels, twisting, rotating your ankles, any movements that you're inclined to do. before you transition into the plow. And then when you're coming out of the plow, try to roll down one vertebrae at a time as slow and controlled as you can down to the mat to relax into Savasana. Remembering the intentions that you set at the beginning of this practice. Thank yourself for taking the time out of your day to focus on yourself and your well-being. Drift off while we're in Savasana. As we bring our awareness back into the room, back into our bodies, you can either roll to one side or the other. Rest there. Or if it's comfortable for you, there's an option to push yourself straight up with your chin slightly tucked and your elbows behind you, slightly rocking yourself, straightening both arms out behind you. If you're on your side, eventually gently push yourself up. And we will meet in the easy pose. Once you're in easy pose, place your left hand on the right knee, right hand on the floor behind you, maybe with a block, lightly twisting to the right. Lifting your right arm straight up high to cross over your left arm, right hand onto your left knee, and then reaching your left hand behind you for a light twist, before then lifting that left arm straight up, crossing it over the right arm, And then you can lightly hug yourself in this basket shape again. And then we're going to make ourselves as small as we can into a seedling or a ball, constricting yourself to take up as little space as possible, squeezing yourself in tightly before releasing, and then stretching your arms up and out wide to the sides in a star shape, and then place each hand on each of your knees, touching the pointer fingers to the thumbs. We'll breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. We're going to chant Om 3 times in a low pitch on the exhale. Then stretching the arms out wide again for a half moon arch, bringing those arms up overhead, prayer hands. And then to acknowledge your insight and wisdom, touch your thumbs or knuckles to your third eye on the way to prayer hands over heart. And then reaching out the arms wide once again for one last half moon arch. Prayer hands overhead. Slowly lowering your prayer hands for hands over heart, and then bow to close and seal today's practice. And so it is. I thank you for practicing with me today. Be well and enjoy a very blessed rest of your day. Drink your water, love and light.